Oh, look at that. Well, the time is 6 o'clock. I will call to order this meeting of the Winooski City Council. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Deputy Mayor Bryn Oakley.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wonderful, thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Okay.
I will move on to. Oh my gosh, sorry, my tabs are all not open. Liquor and Control Board. Jenny.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I asked the applicants, I sent an email, left a voicemail message to see if they could attend,
Yeah.
to be here at 5:45. So this is a new establishment at the former subway location, 476 Main. And why it's conditional is because the owners needed an interpreter. And so code enforcement is arranging it, I think, for Wednesday. So that is why that was conditional, because they don't
Okay.
have their inspection yet.
Okay. So with needing an interpreter, has anything been able to, has code enforcement been able to go there at all yet? Or
They're going Wednesday.
they're going Wednesday? Okay.
I spoke with their person that's helping them with
Yeah.
the rehab,
Okay.
and he just explained it all to me.
Yeah, okay. Well, my normal question would be any concerns from staff, but as staff has not been able to be there yet.
Is this the former subway space?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there were two businesses, so are both spaces within that building vacant at this point? Do you know?
I believe so, because I originally talked to him a few months ago.
Yeah.
He came in initially,
Yeah.
and then he was asking about licensing. And then they came back and they said they're getting closer, but they're just doing a lot of, refurbishing the space.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm sure it
And
fit up.
he said it's small. I kept saying it's small, but I couldn't really determine what small was. But
Yeah.
everything was fine on their liquor application, so it's
Okay.
passed through that stage at this time.
Um,
And it's Ecuadorian food. That's what it specializes in.
That's really exciting.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking about some continued Main Street work, so I don't know if you're able to find out, I'd be curious what they're hoping for their open date.
Initially, it was June,
Okay, yeah,
so we'll see.
okay,
Mm.
all right.
Any other questions? And then the other conditional one on here, Jenny, the Hickok and River,
Still waiting for an inspection.
waiting for an inspection. Okay.
Is that the name of the business?
It's the former Chicks Market. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's what it's called.
Okay,
All right. Well then, I will seek a motion to approve these with the two conditionals waiting on their inspections.
so moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. Thank you, Jenny.
So,
All right. We will move on to continue our agenda for the Winooski City Council. Agenda review.
Do we need to close the liquor control board?
I don't know if we've ever done that.
I didn't hear what?
Do we need to close the liquor control board meeting first?
Oh, yes.
Seek a motion to close the liquor control board.
So moved.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I don't think we've ever done that before. I know I haven't.
Well, when you open with a liquor, then you
Yeah.
move to council, but because we open
Okay,
with council.
Okay, all right. All right. So back to council, 6:04. Agenda review. Councilors, anything you would like to move, change, or have questions about?
No.
No?
no.
Okay. We will move to public comment then. This item of public comment is reserved for comments and questions on topics that are not in tonight's agenda. So if you have an item for tonight's agenda, I'll just ask you to wait until that moment. Given that, does anybody have any public comments? All right, I see a hand raised. Paul, can you bring them over?
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, it's Tara Zigman from West Street. I had a couple of things. First, I just heard, I just got home from work, so I just barely caught the end of the Chicks Market. I'm just curious, I think they were just getting a liquor license, but I noticed there's a picnic table outside now, and I'm curious if that is something that they need a sidewalk permit for?
Terry, thank you for that question. Jenny, sorry, Lana.
We'll follow up.
Okay, we will follow up on that. I don't have an answer for you on that right this
Okay.
moment.
So I'm going to ask a second question related to that. If they do need a permit, I'd like them to get one because it's on the sidewalk, it's on public space.
Yeah.
And I would like to ask that they be required to have a trash can out there. I was out in the rain on Saturday on Green Up Day picking up garbage in front of there,
Yeah.
underneath their picnic table. And there's always garbage on that corner that we clean up. So I'm requesting that they have a garbage can out there.
Okay. I'll have to see if that's something in our regulations that we can ask for, but I don't believe we have ordinances that would allow us to make them do that. It's certainly
Okay,
something we
well-
could ask.
Okay. And then I did have one other thing for public comment.
Yeah.
To talk about. Just kind of, in light of the big discussion that's been happening in many meetings about Franklin Street,
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to plant the seed once again, since Franklin Street is a place where there are no sidewalks, and it's currently unsafe for people to walk.
Mm.
And 3 units of housing just got built there with 0 impact fees. I would like to ask the council to once again consider the idea of imposing impact fees on developers. It seems like what's happening on Franklin Street is a great example of some place where having impact fees actually could be effective and useful. So I just wanted to put that out there then.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate that suggestion.
Okay,
Happy to
thanks
respond
for
to that one.
listening and
Yeah. And Terry, the city manager does have a response for you on that second question.
okay.
More of a status update, but yes, thank you, Thomas. So staff, or council asked staff to look at impact fees this fiscal year as part of the policy priorities and strategies. And we have a report out on that. So at our next quarterly goal update, we will be giving council an update on that, if not before. So, yeah, we can tell you when that meeting is, so you can listen in.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Appreciate your time and your service, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Thank
for
you,
your
Terry.
comments, Terry. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else online who has a public comment or anybody in the public in the building? All right, seeing no more, we will move on to our consent agenda. On today's consent agenda, we have the approval of City Council and Liquor Control Board meeting minutes of April 20th, 2026, and special City Council meeting minutes of April 27th, 2026. Payroll warrant, April 12 to 25. Accounts payable warrant, April 30th. A resolution for Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. A resolution for Jewish American Heritage Month. A resolution for Older Americans Month. A resolution for Mental Health Awareness Month. An approval of Inclusion and Belonging Commission charter change to specify a staff liaison.
So moved. Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect, thank you. All right, we'll move on to council reports. Councilor Ogilvy.
Yeah, so just in review, our April Municipal Infrastructure Commission meeting was canceled. But we did have a Burlington-Winooski Bridge meeting this past week on Wednesday, April 29th. I want to thank everyone who was able to attend and give feedback for the bridge in the adjacent park. I think it was very well attended, which I was very happy to see. And we look forward to discussing and reviewing the bridge in our upcoming Municipal Infrastructure Commission meeting. So if you want to give feedback and tell the city about a little more what you learned or things you want to talk about, please attend our next meeting.
Nice. Thank you, Eli. Councilor Chakos.
Excuse me. We had an Airport Commission meeting on Tuesday, April 28th. The Airport Commission moved forward with a recommendation for the airport budget, which will be moved to the Burlington City Council and will be voted on at their next meeting. And we have an Airport Commission meeting this Wednesday at 4 p.m. I also just want to highlight a few things that as a city council member I'm working on. One of which is Walk to School Day, which is this Wednesday. I'm very excited about that. I'm working on that in my capacity as someone who has recently joined the Safe Routes to School Commission meeting group. Anyway, and so I just want to invite all of our Winooski neighbors, community members, students, parents, and we are partnering with Locomotion and WAT, which I point to Councilmember Ogilvy because he's a member of that. And so each year, Winooski community members, families, and Winooski School District teachers and staff come together to celebrate walking, biking, and rolling to school. Students and adults gather together at locations across the city to form walking and rolling school buses, traveling together to school as a community. This is about making walking and rolling feel safe, joyful, and possible for everyone. And so, like I said, we'd love for our neighbors to join us. This is more than just about getting to school. It's about building connections between neighbors and creating safer and more welcoming streets and showing our students what community care looks like in action. I also want to note that at the Winooski School District, we also have an opportunity to learn more about voting rights on Tuesday, May 12th from 6 to 7 p.m. And that's it for me.
Wonderful, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Yep, so seconding the notes about the Winooski Burlington Bridge replacement meeting that was this past Wednesday. I got initial updates on attendance. It estimated to be closer to 150 people.
Nice.
So that was very well attended. It was a great event, really well done, planned out, and thanks to everyone who showed up and asked questions and participated in the feedback. We will have our Safe, Healthy, Connected meeting on the 12th. Look for an agenda notice coming out later this week. And the Housing Commission meeting, I believe, is scheduled for the 19th this month due to holidays and some scheduling conflicts. So again, agenda for that will be coming later this month.
Nice, thank you. At the last Planning Commission meeting, they had a public hearing around the amendments to the Unified Land Use and Development Regulations. It was also a joint meeting with the Housing Commission. The public hearing, I thought was really well attended, which is always nice. We always appreciate when the community comes out for a public hearing, so it helps guide the commissions and then helps guide council. They will be forwarding on the items that they were discussing to us, so we will see that at a future council meeting. A lot of this conversation, as councilors I believe know, is fueled by the recent construction on Franklin Street in terms of the public comments that we received from residents. And then during the housing and planning joint portion of that meeting, we received a presentation from the team behind the Building Typologies project. Really fascinating work that they're putting together. They're still working on it, but it's fascinating to kind of see the different possibilities for layouts for infill in the city. So if you haven't been able to check that out, I would definitely recommend taking a look. The next Planning Commission meeting will be on the 14th at 6:30 p.m. That happens in City Hall and online as well. Green Up Day just happened, so thank you to everybody who participated in Green Up Day. A particular thank you to the Deputy Mayor, who we may have to name Green Up Day after 1 year. You always encourage so many folks to turn out, and you stay out there and collect probably more green bags than many other folks. But also a huge thanks to staff and to all of the organizations who were involved. I know that there was a cleanup and a tour of Memorial Park, where we're hoping to do some work in the future so that it is a park that more residents can use. The pictures that I saw of Councilor Ogilvie and Deputy Mayor, looked like you cleaned out a lot of things there. But Ray, thanks to you and your staff, I know that you're heavily involved in everything Green Up Day. And just really thanks to the residents. It was nice to drive around throughout the day after I did a little volunteering and just seeing people cleaning up, I don't know, all evening. I mean, I was driving through town at one point when it was kind of dusky and I still saw some people cleaning up our city. So thank you everyone. And I think that's all I got. Elaine?
Yeah, so reminder that the O'Brien Community Center and Winooski Memorial Library renovation will begin this fall if all goes according to plan. And the library is now closed for the month of May and will reopen in June at 65 Winooski Falls Way. Again, that's the space formerly leased by the Commodities Market. To view the details about this process, you can visit winooskivt.gov/news. And if community members wish to support the redevelopment of the Bryan Community Center, including the library project, they can make a gift online to getahome.org/donate-O'Brien. And it will not go to housing particularly, it will go to the community center. Please save the date. Everyone's invited to the community parade on Saturday, June 6, 2026. The Winooski Mosaic campaign continues with that Main Street Community Parade. It'll start at the Winooski School District at 12 p.m. and will be followed by community lunch at the Winooski Senior Center. Keep an eye out for the announcement this week. We do need volunteers to march in the parade with banners that promote businesses that this campaign will provide. To sign up and learn more, you can do that later this week at downtownwinooski.org/mosaic. Winooski residents interested in running for state representative Chittenden 21 district, that's 2 representatives for 2-year terms, during the Vermont primary election that take place on August 11, 2026, must complete and submit the required paperwork to the Winooski City Clerk's office no later than 5 p.m. on Thursday, May 28, 2026. For full details and to download your paperwork, you can visit winooskivt.gov/news or stop by the City Clerk's office Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Winooski Board, Commission, and Committee terms are expiring on June 30, 2026. Residents with relevant experience, skills, interests, and/or a willingness to engage are encouraged to apply for these great opportunities and to participate in local government. Groups include the Development Review Board, Finance Commission, Housing Commission, Inclusion and Belonging Commission, Local Resources Advisory Board, which concentrates on historic preservation, Municipal Infrastructure Commission, Planning Commission, Safe, Healthy, Connected People Commission, and the Winooski Memorial Library Committee. The City Council and staff welcome a diversity of voices, and if you've never served on a board, commission, or committee before, we will do our best to support you. To learn more and apply, you can visit winooskivt.gov/news. And to echo council, many thanks to everyone who attended the Burlington-Winooski Bridge Open House last week. It was great to see so many community members connecting with the project team, asking great questions and learning about the project. Updates and next steps will be posted to the project website soon. And finally, again, echoing council, thanks to the many residents and volunteers for another amazing Green Up Day. Some impressive stats at a glance, thanks to our Community Services Department. 531 Green Up bags distributed, 137 volunteers signed in, likely many more who volunteered who did not sign in. Volume of trash is 1 large roll-off dumpster filled plus 3 smaller ones, about 1,000 pounds of tires, and 1 truck full of metal waste. So this is always this funny thing where it's like, oh, it's great that there was so much picked up, but it's terrible that so much was picked up. But concentrate on thanking the community for pitching in. A special thanks also to the Winooski Valley Parks District and the Friends of the Winooski River for hosting the Memorial Park cleanup and cookout, and of course to Ray Coffey and the rest of the community services team for putting in so much work, not only that day, but surrounding days as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Is there any public comment on either the council report or the city report? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our regular items. Our first item of the night is a discussion, Chittenden Solid Waste District Annual Report.
Paul, go ahead and bring over Sarah and Beth.
I'm Sarah Reed. I am the Executive Director for the Chittenden Solid Waste District. Thank you for your time today. I'm here to present not our annual report, but our fiscal 27 budget proposal. It is something that we do need to ask our cities and towns for their support and for their vote. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see that. Wonderful. Coming here. So who we are is Chittenden Solid Waste District. We were chartered back in 1987 to manage the solid waste generated in Chittenden County in an environmentally sound, economical, efficient, and effective manner. And we represent the entirety of the communities in Chittenden County. This is our breakdown of our last year's revenue, and it changes a little bit from each year to year, depending on fees and sales projections, etc. And again, why we're here is because per our charter, the legislative bodies of each member municipality need to vote on our budget. Each select board and council has one vote, and the votes are not weighted by population. One equal. I usually also get asked how we're doing as a community. And so how we're doing is, this is back in 25 again. Chittenden County generated a little over 300,000 tons of solid waste total. Of that, just over 124,000 tons were landfills. That's at column 3. And of that, the materials that could have been diverted fall into those 4 categories of special materials, recycling organics, and construction demolition debris. So we've been focusing a lot of our education efforts over the past couple of years on that organics piece. So fully, almost 31,000 tons of food scraps should have been diverted. So we feel that there's a huge opportunity there to do more. I want to kind of get this right out there up front and talk a little bit about how the MRF project fraud incident that we experienced in March has affected our budgeting for the next year. So we had completed our draft budget process. We had our finance committee meeting on that draft budget in mid-February, and a few weeks later, we fell victim to a significant phishing scam. $3 million was diverted to a fraudster that was intended for our construction partner. We then, had to revisit our draft budget, which we did, which resulted in significant cuts to programs, to expenses. We deferred capital, and we revised our revenue expectations for the upcoming year. Regarding kind of next steps on this process, so I want to be very, very clear that our member municipalities are not going to be asked to bear the burden of closing the funding gap. That $3 million, again, was 2 separate payments for our construction partner for work that they had done. We were then, immediately behind $3 million in payments for this project. So we have made that up, just about made that up to them. but we are now, again, behind in our funding projections. So the revisions to our fiscal 27 budget were designed to basically recover preserved cash, and that cash that will be directed to the project funds. So if any revenue next year generated that exceeds our budgeted needs are going directly to that MRF project. We are anticipating that we're going to need to seek a short-term bank loan, which will need to be paid for, like any municipality in a short-term borrowing within a 12-month period. So we are working with our bank on that, and we'll be bringing the proposal to our finance committee and then to our board in the next month or so. I'm projecting that the kind of the very short, bare bones, basic budgeting process and operational process will span the next 2 fiscal years. I am forecasting that we'll be starting fiscal 30 kind of back where we thought we were going to be for next year. So I don't anticipate this being a long-term effect or long-term issue, but it is going to be a tight couple of years for the next 2 fiscal years. So we are currently, CSWD management and our finance committee are reviewing, again, the expected spend over the next couple of years, including capital projects. Essentially, the only capital project we're working on is this MRF project, but also looking at current assets. We'll be making some recommendations to the board in the next few months regarding disposition of some of our assets. And also the Finance Committee will be reviewing our current financial policies and key procedures, and we'll be passing along any recommendations for changes to our board. So our new revised bottom line for our budget for fiscal 27, we are anticipating revenue, or budgeting revenue, at just over $19 million, $19,451,000. We remove cost of goods sold, which are the costs associated with producing things like compost and local color paint, leaving us a gross profit just over $19,250,000. Our expenses, after again all of the cuts to programs, to avoided costs and deferred capital, brings us in at just over $16 million. And so that income from operations before depreciation and transfer is just over $3.1 million. So we are not going to be dividing up any of that excess revenue, should we realize that revenue, to any of our reserve funds, but for the MRF project fund. The only exception to that is the community cleanup fund, which we have committed to continuing to fund that fully for our municipality. And so this is the breakdown of our revenue. You can see that we're anticipating again pretty close, a little bit less in tipping fees than we were last year, a little bit more in the solid waste management fee, a little bit less in the sale of materials. The solid waste management fee is the tax that is charged to haulers for every ton of trash that is disposed in the landfill in Coventry. Our expenses, roughly similar to last year. Payroll is roughly the same. Materials management is slightly higher, not by too much. Administrative costs have gone down quite a bit. Equipment and fleet down quite a bit. But it's looking similar to last year as far as the breakdown. The revenue change is significantly higher. Again, that is in part due to a revision of our revenue expectations. We tend to be very conservative in how we budget our revenue. We don't like to count too many chickens before they're hatched. So this year we decided to make it much closer to what we're realizing this year, and not be so super conservative on the revenue. So we're hoping it will look similar to this year, recognizing that there's quite a lot out of our control. Material sales increased 28%. That is some of that is due to the recycling facility, but also that increase due to a projected more robust sales for our compost facility, which is already seeing revenue in excess of their currently budgeted amount for this year. So we're trying to kind of hew closer to our actuals for this projected budget, both on the revenue and the expenses. And again, the revenue changes represent some cash preserved to the avoided spending and capital project deferral. And the expenses change, basically level expense from last year, so very modest increase to wages and benefits. Materials management increase, that is what we pay to haulers to move material either out to market or to the landfill. And then some significant cost reductions, expense reductions. So you can see some of those listed there. And the significant cuts were due to marketing, advertising. We usually do every other year surveys, business travel and professional development, and operational supplies that are not safety related. So we want to make sure that, again, services to our customers were not decreased, and if it's a safety issue, it continues to be funded. We are not taking any cuts to safety. And we're looking at, we have a pretty robust schedule for capital replacements for things like rolling stock. We took a hard look at that, and we are deferring some of those replacements out in a couple to three years.
Does anybody have questions about any of the acronyms?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, oh gosh. Yeah, please do stop. We get into our jargon. Apologies.
I agree.
Yeah, we can notice that too. We do have some fee changes that we are proposing in this budget at our drop-off centers. We're looking at ways, again, to be able to help fund capital revenue. The new materials recycling facility will not be able to contribute significantly to the overall general capital fund as it has over the last 20 years. It will be needing to use all of the revenue that it generates from its operations to pay for the operations, pay for its debt service, and contribute to its own capital reserves. So the solution that we arrived at for the drop-off centers was to implement a facility use fee. We actually asked our drop-off center users for their input on this. We did a survey over 3 weeks in March, I believe it was, and said we need to raise fees, we need to raise $1 somewhere. And so we asked them, of these 4 areas, do you have a preference? And if you have a preference, could you please rank that? And so it was actually just about tied between a facility use fee, which is pretty much means any vehicle that comes through the gate will pay $1 to use the facility, or raising $1, adding $1 to the price of the bags at the drop-off centers. And we felt that the more equitable solution was to spread the dollar fee across all users versus just adding it to our trash customers. We have customers who are coming in maybe once every month or once every year for something special they may need to dispose of that's not a bag. They may have a subscription hauler, and they would not be paid to use the facility. Whereas our weekly customers would see that fee every week on their bags. So more equitable solution we felt was to add a facility fee for each vehicle of $1. We're also going to start to charge for leave in yard. This is new this year. It is to address the sheer volume of material that comes in, mainly in the spring and the fall, and the cost associated with moving that material. So it's $1 for your per cubic yard up to 2 cubic yards, and then $5 a cubic yard over 2 cubic yards. And if you have really more than 2 to 3 cubic yards, it will likely be more cost effective perhaps to bring it directly to our organics recycling facility in Winooski, where there will still at this point be no fee associated with direct hauling there. But that will be new, and that will take effect in July, but will likely be coming into effect for most folks in September. The tipping fee or the user fee at the material recycling facility has already increased. It increased to $200 on April 1st, so that is carrying through in July 1. The organics recycling facility, where Green Mountain Compost, is increasing from $70 a ton to $77. No increase at the environmental depot, and the solid waste management fee will increase from $40 a ton to $41.92 a ton, and that is basically following the garbage and trash index according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index.
And for folks that don't know, the environmental depot is the household hazardous waste facility.
Yes, thank you very much. And then I'm going to stop here. And again, we do ask our municipalities to vote to approve our budget each year. And really, that was a lot of information in a short amount of time. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Sarah, thank you so much for that presentation. My city manager would like to say something, so I'm gonna let her go.
Yeah, Sarah, my apologies. I miswarned this meeting item, and so I'd have to ask council to, you can vote as suggested, but I'll just have it on the next agenda under consent as the official approval.
And we'll just want to change it from the annual report to the annual budget, so that that's corrected.
Okay. Sarah, I always appreciate seeing your presentation. This will be the 5th one I've seen, I think, 4th or 5th, and you always do a very good job at breaking down the finances, and it's something that I have appreciated. It makes it very understandable for me to process, and I'm sure for the public to process as well. Only question I have is regarding the phishing scam that happened. Obviously, that's in the past, and it was very upsetting for you all, I'm sure. But what measures have you taken since then to try to stop phishing from happening again? And completely understanding that the amazing thing about phishing is it can quite literally happen to anybody. So I don't think you're the first or the last organization, but just wondering if there have been extra trainings or anything like that.
Yeah, no, you're right. And one of the reasons that we felt it was important to talk about it was to highlight that this can happen to everyone, anyone, and it is happening throughout Vermont. We are certainly not the first, and we won't be the last, unfortunately. So one of the first things we did after obviously notifying our bank and notifying the parties was to have our networking and our IT company run a full scan of all of our systems. And so we are confident that there was not a breach to our network or to any of our bank accounts. It was a true sophisticated phishing scam. We have revamped our training. All of our office folks are required to take training each year. We were just in the process actually of revamping those modules when this happened. So it's an annual exercise that our IT director goes through to improve the modules, and it was underway.
Yeah.
So that has been done, and everyone has retaken the training. And again, we're looking at our financial policies and our procedures, and making sure that there were no gaps there, and that we're just tightening everything up as much as we can. And it's one of those things where there was not an obvious breach.
Yeah.
There's no big hole. It was, something that again can happen to anyone and is happening everywhere, every day. And so we are being super cautious now. We're always careful, but now we're very cautious. We're quite suspicious. We're slowing things down and taking extra steps that may seem, maybe silly, but it's giving us that confidence that this will not happen again. But yeah, it was jarring, devastating. Wouldn't wish it on anybody.
Yeah. No, it's very true, Sarah. Thank you for bringing that up, and I agree. It's something that we should talk about more often because it definitely happens. I've received emails from the city manager asking me to bring the gift cards down.
Yeah.
And among other things. Deputy Mayor, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to share with us through your work on the board.
Sure, yeah. I've been on the Solid Waste District Board since 2017, I think. So I'm coming up on 10 years, not quite there yet, but, and believe that is like, there are many other board members that have a longer tenure, much longer tenure than that. So I'm trying to catch up. But the district does an excellent job. They are often setting the bar for the rest of the state for municipal solid waste districts. Their education and outreach programs and staff are top-notch. I think you attended a training recently. I was at a training last week for Waste Warriors, so I'll put a plug for that. There's another training coming up, I believe next week or the week after. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about CSWD. I will still always advocate for a higher dollar for our community cleanup fund for Winooski. But I also will temper that ask right now as well. But yeah, I think the staff across the board, the facilities, do a great job asking, in this most recent survey for community feedback on the best direction to go for raising basically a gate fee. I thought that was really well done. Came together very quickly, had results by the end of our April meeting, which was also very impressive. So yeah, it's a professional team. So I appreciate the work.
Thank you, Brennan.
Oh, wait, I'm not done.
I was going to ask if you
Oh,
have any
sorry.
questions.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I also just, as Deputy Mayor Oakleaf highlighted this, I recently took an amazing compost class, and I'm obsessed with Gabby and Rhonda. And I'm now I'm just going to use the term compost warrior. And I learned, I was asking about compost enforcement and particularly how we can get more folks, particularly in our municipality, to compost. And Deputy Mayor Oakleaf reminded me that it's about how do we educate folks to know that compost exists and how do we make it more accessible for them. And I have been thinking since reading our materials that we received from the city team earlier last week regarding the gate fee. As someone, my wife and I use Chittenden Solid Waste District sometimes, and it makes a lot of sense, particularly just putting on my city council hat, the idea that you have so many cars who are using your parking lot, right? You have to repave it, et cetera. Just like the intersections of all those things makes a lot of sense. So I just think that's really smart on the leadership team, and I just really appreciate, I've been a huge, when my wife and I lived outside of Chittenden County, but I used a lot of transfer stations or dumps, and it's a running joke in our family that I have favorites around the state. And so I just want to say I deeply appreciate what the work of you and your team, and I've become a huge fan because of our deputy mayor. So I just want to highlight you all and just say thank you. Sorry to be
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Anybody, any questions?
Sure, yeah, I have a question if you don't mind. So I'm looking over the budget, and I'm curious, so the 1.63 million that was in cash savings for this next budget, you said it's going to go until 2030, you said? It's going to be the drastic savings to try to recoup the money lost during the fishing? Is that what I was getting?
So the thought is, thank you for asking that question. It gives me a chance to clarify. The thought is that this kind of bare bones operation will last through fiscal 30. So meaning many of the cuts will likely remain in place. So kind of making sure that our base level services continue. So things like business travel will likely be light to nothing. We're going to be very creative with our promotional efforts and very smart use of any advertising dollars. And probably not being introducing many new programs, frankly. So just really making very, very good use of what we have. And thank you for highlighting the Waste Warrior program, because that is one that really needs benefits, and that's something that we feel we can expand. And so we'll kind of look into the strengths that we have in place, expanding things that will not involve a lot of dollar investment or people time investment. And then again, it's kind of deferring those purchases that can wait. Maybe that we're not replacing all our signage right away. It may mean that We're gonna make sure that, people are taking care of uniforms and things of that nature. It's the small things that add up, but it's something where, I don't know that we'll get 1.6 each year, but it's, again, hewing very close to our actuals and taking a hard look each year for the next 2-3 fiscal years, and making sure that, again, we're providing all the services that the community needs and expects from us at the level that they deserve, while maintaining safety for our employees. So I can't guarantee 1.6 for the next couple of years, but our board was very pleased that we found this amount this year, and yeah, I'm hopeful we'll be able to keep our expenses in check and in line around the same amount. The big qualifier, and we would likely will go over our fuel line item for this year, for example. That one, we always raise it a little bit. We did not change that number in the past 3 weeks to account for certain events, but there will be areas that we're not going to realize those savings. But for the ones that we have control over, we're going to be looking at those closely and trying to maintain those savings.
Just kind of a follow-up question. Is there, so some of it says deferred large, replacements for investments of machinery. Do you think there's a risk of operational problems because of that?
So what I asked my operations director to do was to be very honest with me about the needs, right? And he always is. But we have a very robust replacement schedule because before I got here, it was more of a kick everything kind of down the road, and then when things start to break, then we'll make that purchase. And that's not what my philosophy is. My philosophy is put it on a good schedule, make sure you're doing good preventative maintenance, and then replace it as needed while you still have a little bit of value there that you can use as a trade-in, or if you need to have a spare, you've got it. So what I asked my operations departments to do is to look at that schedule and take a hard look at each item that was in the near term to be replaced, and to say, can we safely get another year out of this truck? Can we get another year out of this loader? And when the answer was no, this needs to be replaced, and then we will figure that out. But more often, because of the past 5 years, we've been doing this more regular replacement schedule, we're in a good place to be able to defer several of those larger planned purchases down the road without affecting safety, without affecting efficiency. Some of the things that we also had been planned were some of the more heavier maintenance at our drop-off centers. And again, we had an engineer come in and say, this is what we're thinking of. Can we get another year out of this structure? Can we get, do we need to replace this right now? And so we have some satisfaction from our engineer that said, no, you can safely push this out a year. So we have some items that are out just 1 year, some that are out 2, and some that are out 3. So we'll continue to evaluate in the next 6 months. We'll take another look at those items that are a year out and make sure that's on schedule, as well as the 2-year, and just really keep a very close eye on it. But anything that had any safety notifications to it, those items are not on the deferred list. Those items are still on the replacement list.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I don't envy your position, but I trust your opinions right now, so thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any questions from members of the public? If you're online, just raise your hand. All right, not seeing any questions there. Any further questions from councilors?
Thank you.
Okay, so we can't technically vote. on
You
this.
can give her an indication today, but then
Okay.
you can make it official next time. So you can
Can I
vote.
But I'm not gonna seek a motion for said vote, just, all right.
Straw poll,
Can I have an indication of if you would vote in favor of this budget?
yes.
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 Yes, okay. We will see this on consent then.
Great. Thank you very much.
Sarah and Beth, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to our next item, discussion approval, adopting policy on temporary work agreements. Jesse?
I'm gonna cover for Jesse.
Okay.
So, as first reviewed with City Council at your April 20th, 26th meeting, the city has and will continue to need temporary employees for tasks that make the positions unlike regular employees and not like contractors. Examples include an American Sign Language interpreter who is not currently a contractor and does not plan to be, but already has a relationship with the person they would be interpreting for. Another example is focus group participants recruited based on their community relationships. Council had feedback at their last meeting to put in a maximum duration for such temporary work agreements and for reporting to council. Both of these, to our understanding, was to reduce the likelihood that a temporary work assignment would be inappropriately prolonged. The revision in the packet accounts for these changes at a high level. We would have more detail, of course, in a procedure. Are there any questions or further comments from council?
Great, thank you. Elaine, nice to see the suggested changes here. I always appreciate seeing that, especially clearly in a different color. Councilors, do you have any questions for the city manager? No?
I do not.
Yeah, I also just wanted to say, thanks for, the discussion last week and for, taking some of my, feedback and incorporating that into the revisions tonight, so I appreciate that.
Of course, yeah.
And the swiftness with which it happened. Appreciate that.
In that case, I will seek a motion to approve adopting the policy on temporary work agreements.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Wonderful, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Our next item, discussion, strategic vision goal, area update, municipal infrastructure. John, are you online?
Yes. Great, thank you. So this is our third update for FY26. As you can kind of see in the memo provided, most of all of the must-dos are proceeding as planned. The first three infrastructure activities are sort of our big three projects that are currently ongoing. So the Abenaki parking garage is number one, Main Street, and the Winooski Burlington Bridge project. So those are the big tasks right now. That's probably right around an $80 million investment into the city. So, three items, but major impacts for the city infrastructure. So Abenaki Way, I'll just go through that one real quick. So that one, as you can probably tell if you drive by the site, that is getting pretty close to reaching the end of construction. So the developer is targeting this summer to be complete with the hotel and housing units. So that will allow the city to take over the parking garage structure. So that project has gotten very active recently because we're starting to close out items and work pretty closely with the developer. So thanks to Angela for helping with that. As I mentioned in the memo, one of the things we're looking at right now with that developer is potentially modifying the parking agreement that we have executed with them. They're willing to take over the day-to-day sort of management activities of the parking garage, which, as for the city, that's a big benefit because that's less resources that we have to put into that garage. We still have to obviously maintain all the capital assets and safety equipment and things like that, but one of the reasons they're really looking to do that is because of the hotel and providing a pretty frictionless guest experience for them. So we're working through that right now, and it's, as I mentioned in the memo, that may be something we look to bring you if we can come to an agreement with the developer in maybe June or July as a potential item to discuss. So that's in the works. Obviously, we're working through all the construction closeout items with that project as far as, we're looking at operation and maintenance manuals for the parking garage and trying to get those drafted. There's a lot of just sort of legal items that we need to finalize, like the road dedications. And so that is, that's taking up a bit of time right now, but that means it's getting close to the end, which is great. So all good news there. Then the Main Street project, that, as you know, kicked off in early April again. That work is predominantly on the north end of the corridor this season. The one-way detour will not be implemented this season, to a lot of people's favor. So that's good news. Most of the work will be transportation related, so sidewalks, streetscape. And as you probably witnessed today, they just started the Tigan Street intersection reconstruction. So that means they're doing the main cut up there to put the road back in. So that work is expected to take place this week, and then they're going to be repaving next week is the target, weather pending, of course. So this is probably the trickiest part of the project for this season is finishing that Tigan Street work. As you can imagine, traffic impacts are pretty tough there because of the sort of Norman Street exits and the Tigan Street detour. So they're doing one side, sort of east side, west side, kind of flipping from one side to the other to maintain traffic. So that's in the works right now. And then you'll start seeing some of the remaining light posts and some of the more of the streetscape elements come in this month. Traffic signal foundations were going in today, and so you'll see some of those new traffic signals being installed this month as well. So pretty exciting. We're looking forward to getting this one wrapped up. There's obviously still a lot to do on the closeout of the project as far as builds and closing out financing and that sort of work, but so far so good this season. And then on the Winooski Burlington Bridge, as Eli mentioned, some of you mentioned, we had the open house that was, I thought, really successful. We had a great turnout. We got a lot of really good feedback. The consultant for the project in VTrans is currently compiling a lot of that data. I've seen just a quick look at some of the data that they did receive from specifically on the parks. So I imagine we'll be sharing some of that along, and I think that we're still trying to figure out the best approach to kind of use that data and potentially modify the design build specs to capture some of that. And I was talking with our VTrans project manager today, and he's coming up with some potential options where maybe the council can weigh in on some of that information. So look out for that. I'm going to have probably a memo put together by HNTB if folks are interested, where if council wants to see some additional details on the parks options, we can definitely bring that to you all. Other than that, we're continuing to look at the design build RFP that will be going out hopefully late June, early July, and that will basically kick off the procurement for the design build contractor that would be coming on board in likely the winter spring next year. So there's a very long procurement process with design build because ultimately, the current team gets the project to about 30% design level, and then the design build contractor has to kind of take it from there. So there's a lot of work involved on the design build contractor side to put a proposal together for that work. So a little different than our typical sort of design bid build process where we get a project to, construction level design versus what we're doing here. So that's kind of our main task right now, is just working through that RFP and providing comments to V-Trans and other stakeholders. And then the other items I'll kind of briefly talk on. So, infrastructure item 4, the parking garage elevator, that will kick off really in July when we get into the FY27 budget. So not much to discuss at this point. And then infrastructure items 5 through 7 are stormwater related. So we've made a lot of progress on those 3 items in the last month. So most of that is sort of regulatory, because we have an expired permit in downtown that is pretty complicated, that it overlaps with a bunch of other permits. That would include the new bridge stormwater permit, operational permit, our MS4 and phosphorus control plan. So we do have working with Vermont DEC, we do have a good game plan to address that through our updated phosphorus control plan, that we have a grant in the CCRPC UPWP plan this year that starts in July. So that's their annual kind of work plan solicitation for grant funded projects that typically help transportation and stormwater energy projects. So that will kind of kick off in July, but we have a good, at least, plan to proceed with that. And then you may see some work starting up in the next month or so up at Grissom Court and Cedar Street. That is 2 smaller rain garden bioretention basins that we are currently bidding out. We have bids coming in this week for that. That is part of our phosphorus control plan projects. And we've also tied that into our paving bid this year as well. So that work will be kicking off next month. And then finally, we did receive our sort of final stormwater, I know, not very exciting, but we video inspected pretty much our entire stormwater system with this last phase of grant-funded work through CCRPC. So we're just starting to digest some of that, and that will ultimately show up in sort of our capital plan for next season. So more to come on that one. But so with that, yeah, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, it's a lot, sorry.
No, I'm laughing at something you probably can't see. I think I can speak for everyone. We would definitely love to see some of those plans for the park projects on the bridge. That would be great. So thanks for mentioning that. You didn't specifically say it, but I think it's important to say that in your memo you say substantial completion at Main Street will be done this summer. So I think that is huge for residents to be aware of. Just one question from me, John. On MI9 transportation, consider including enough budget for sidewalks in that road plan. It's the only must-do that you haven't been able to start yet. So just wondering if it's something you think you might have time to get to anytime soon, or if it's just might linger there a little longer.
Yeah, ultimately that will end up being sort of a FY28 budget item. We do have funding right now that's set aside for the east side of town, for Florida Ave and Reginald and some of those streets that are really for concrete work. So there is some budget there, but I think ultimately it's like getting through some of these Main Street larger projects, and then hopefully getting back to some of these like smaller, budgeting for sidewalk replacements, that type of work. So yeah, in my mind, that's probably more of an FY28 budgeting task right now.
Okay. Thank you for that clarity. Council, any questions?
You said that this was very boring, but I actually am very excited about this. The video that you're doing of the stormwater pipes, what is the desired outcome of the video? Like, why do you do it?
So it's for a couple of reasons. So one, we're updating all of our GIS digital mapping. So just making sure that our mapping is accurate. So the pipes that are in the ground are what we have mapped and the sizes are correct. Two, it's identifying the pipes that are in, potentially very poor conditions that will sometimes drive our paving program as well. So when we're looking at, streets for road reconstruction, a lot of times we're looking at the utilities as part of that. And we want to identify any major issues that we have to address immediately. So some spot repair issues. And then ultimately what our goal is with this too is long-term capital planning on our stormwater side. So, understanding if we have, some pipes that we're seeing that we need to, say, slip line. So slip lining is when we don't have to actually excavate the road and replace the pipe, and we can just line those in situ, then we'll do that. Or there may be pipes that we do have to actually excavate and replace. And so the goal is to really build that into the sewer fund long-term capital plan as well. Because right now we don't have, we do have some data based on the previous video, but now that we have all of it together, we can start going through and sort of prioritizing pipes for replacement. So yeah, it's a really helpful tool, and it just gives us a little more clarity on where our pipe network is condition-wise and cost-wise.
Thank you.
Eli?
Hi, John. Nice to chat with you as always. Number 7, the stormwater improvement project. How is that being funded? Is it being funded through how is it being funded?
Yeah, so right now we do have one grant that will basically fund the improvements at the ones I mentioned at Brisson Court and Cedar Street. It will also fund some of the design work for the other projects. So our phosphorus control plan, it may be posted on our website, I'll check. If not, I'll post it on our website. It outlines, I believe it's 4 or 5 different stormwater projects throughout the city that will ultimately meet our phosphorus threshold that DEC has set. So with those projects, we will basically capture, I forget the number, 20-some kilograms of phosphorus, including some of our existing stormwater structures. So we have 4 or 5 that we have to build. So the grant will fund at least construction for 1 and some design support for at least 2 of the other projects. So basically that means we do have to find hopefully grant funds to build these remaining projects. The deadline, if I remember, don't hold me to this, I think the deadline to complete the projects is 2036. So we do have some time to chase some additional grant funding for these projects. And most of them are kind of smaller projects, so it's these bioretention basins at Brisson Cedar Core. Another project would be at Landry Park underneath the parking lot. And then there's a project at Richard Park that'd be sort of a similar size, smaller bioretention basin. And I'm forgetting where the other one is right now, but they're all sort of smaller ones that we have to implement by that, I think, 2036 date. So we are going to have to chase some more grant funding for those.
Are those, so if there is a match required for the grants, would they be coming from the stormwater fund? in the water fund? Okay.
Yep. Yeah,
Stormwater.
sewer fund. So,
Sewer fund, yeah.
Yeah, sewer includes sanitary and storm expenses, but yeah, it'd be sewer fund.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got several questions. Follow up to Councilor Turcos. For the video study, will there be a report available?
Yep. Yeah, we can post that on our landing page with the other like master plan reports.
Okay. Do you anticipate when that might be available?
Probably within the next month or so. We just have to go through it, make sure there's, it's draft, make sure it's final for posting. So probably next month or so.
Okay. And then for the lines that the condition allows some in situ work, is that something that would be proposed to be addressed on the near term?
I'm not sure yet. We still have to sort of digest that report and see and kind of build out a capital plan. So it's a little too early to tell at this point, but I think, like I said, our goal is to kind of build a 5-year capital plan just on the pipe network based on the reports.
Okay. And then just related to that, those findings, will that also inform some of the scoping work that's done that usually relates to like other street management projects, like thinking of LaFountain as an example of how, and Hickok as an example of how water sewer lines tend to also influence other, other street improvements, sidewalk, curbing, et cetera?
Yeah, I think so, because then at least, a lot of times when we do like I'll say a LaFountain Street scoping study, we don't have a general sense of what the condition of the storm piping is until we do that video inspection. And so now that we have sort of the whole city videoed, that's obviously a cost that we can bake into any of those scoping studies where it's like, okay, well, if we're doing the surface transportation, we have to do the stormwater rehab. That's an extra, X, $1,000, or it's full replacement. So I think that's where we would sort of bake it into these scoping studies, is like we would have a better understanding of what the cost of the rehab or replacement of the stormwater infrastructure would be. And it may even also guide, like if we're, for example, looking at a road diet or something like that, and we know that the stormwater infrastructure is in poor condition, it's like, yeah, it makes sense, because then we can move catch basins around because we're going to have to replace the stormwater system anyways. So yeah, I think it will be a helpful factor when we're looking at scoping studies.
Okay, awesome. On to some other related topics that you just covered. I was curious with the Abenaki garage. In discussions with the developer for that, would there be an expense that's presented to the city that's affiliated with that partnership for the garage management?
Angela, I might tag you in, but I don't think we have talked about an expense, right?
Not directly. I am still working through a potential contract. I have a meeting with our attorney tomorrow on this issue, as there are some complications around our tax exempt financing and doing any sort of third-party agreement. But we are not anticipating that this would have any cost to the city. At most, we are anticipating potentially foregone revenue, but there will be an equivalent savings on our side for expenses.
Okay, follow-up question to that. see if I can phrase this well. So if the agreement would be allowed to go forward, considering the financing parameters, would the developer then be responsible for managing the lease of all the spaces? Am I understanding that correctly?
So all of the revenue for any contracts would continue to come to the city. The only contracts that will exist in that garage are the hotel, the housing, CCV, and the Digest property. Any other parking contracts would be for the Cascades garage. And we are working through specific agreements in the operations agreement that we're proposing around those contract operations and how we would expect them to be managed.
Okay, helpful. Thank you. I'm sure I'll have questions in the future, but that's helpful now. Thanks.
Eli?
Yep.
John, two follow-up questions. Is there anything on the, I don't know what to call it, but the to-do list, any of the may-dos that may be completed in this year? Or you anticipate being completed? I know there's a few that says like not started yet, so I didn't know.
Yeah,
If it is.
I'm looking through.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll just run through a couple of those. So the stormwater ordinance update, I drafted some high-level bullet points that, we want to include for that. So that is one I would really, really like to get done this year, because our current stormwater ordinance is frankly pretty poor. It doesn't address a lot of sort of the very unique things in Winooski with very small, developable, highly impervious lots that, luckily we've had a lot of developers that do work with us in putting in like proper stormwater treatment, but our ordinance is behind. So that is one I really want to get done this season. The Hoods Crossing, I think I mentioned the memo. That's one where we haven't heard much back from V-Trans on that one so far, but I imagine that's going to pick up very soon because that's one that is going to be targeted for construction next spring ahead of any bridge work. So that one is I'm probably going to get an email tomorrow because I mentioned it. So that one will definitely pick up. The treatment plant, we have, we sort of started talking with some design consultants about that for the flood mitigation work. So that will really pick up in July with the budget. So we do have funds budgeted for that in the FY27 budget. So that will wait until July. Parking garage, yeah, we haven't. That is one that's probably not going to happen this year, but looking at different access systems for the garage. So that one is probably less potential. I'd like to get into the snow and ice control kind of policy, but that probably won't happen until the fall, honestly, at this point. And then the fountain, the very last one, interestingly enough, there is some activity on that right now. It's sort of passive on my end, but one of the local engineering consulting firms is interested in helping look at that fountain. Actually, kind of in coordination with the hotel developer as kind of a welcome to the area, like we're gonna try to help you fix your fountain type task. So we're probably gonna do some investigation on that actually this spring. We just cleaned it out last week, and we're gonna do some dye testing and at least figure out where the failure is in that fountain. If it's a leak in the basin that collects all the water, or it's the service line that runs to the pump. So there actually is some work going on with that right now. So that one, we could have an answer on at least what the issues are there. So.
Very cool. Well, thank you. Then my follow-up question is more like a comment / question. I know on my tour, we talked about the brine application. I didn't really know if you wanted to tell folks how much salt was saved and so on and so forth, because it was quite interesting to hear about it.
Yeah, I think I'll probably do that, maybe a next update or even a standalone piece. I give a ton of credit to the team, like particularly Jason, our crew leader. He's really championed using liquid application this winter. We've been able to save, this past winter saved quite a bit in rock salt usage, where other municipalities were having a lot of issues not even be able to get salt. We managed pretty well. So I'll share some numbers and some reporting. We're also getting interest from other municipalities, like wanting to know how, what they can possibly do to implement. So our team's really leading the way on this, and I'm really grateful for them. So yeah, I think I'll do something once we get a little bit more information on confirming how much salt we've used and that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question about the Main Street project. One about the Tigan Street and Norman Street intersection. So can you just clarify what you anticipate happening this month? I noticed heading southbound into the city that the stoplight, the left light, the green light doesn't light up when it, just the right side. That seems intentional, but I'm not sure. Without line striping, there continue to be a lot of close calls with folks not understanding that that's a right turn only lane. Thankfully, traffic should be calming down soon with colleges ending for the year, but obviously we still have K through 12 that's in session for another month and a half or so. So if you're able to just clarify what project work is happening now at that intersection, that'd be helpful.
Yep. Yeah, so this week they're reconstructing that entire intersection, and that basically means the roadway. So they're taking the existing roadway down to about 3 feet depth and installing new dense grade stone, and then a finer stone, and then putting a base layer of pavement and then a binder layer of pavement. So everything except sort of the last final paving. And I actually, today we had a discussion on, how are we going to maintain traffic through there and eliminate this constant conflict of right turners and through. One of the things that we're probably going to look at until the final pavement is installed is making that sort of one lane through there, meaning through lane and right turn would be one. Mm-hmm. But we have to look at what that queuing would look like. And so that has to be modeled, and then if that seems infeasible, we're going to have to come up with some sort of temporary lane markings until final pavement occurs. I don't have the date for the final paving. I'll have to look at the schedule again, but the final, right now they're targeting the end of sort of substantial completion for the project mid-June. So at least by, they're currently targeting right now by at least mid-June being completely done with final paving and line striping and all that. So we'll see. That's very weather dependent and, what they find. As far as the signal goes, it's a little interesting because the signal is actually part of the DDI project. It's not part of the Main Street project. So SD Ireland is installing the signal. We had a coordination meeting with their team last week on sort of timing. The new signal would likely be installed, I suspect sometime in July at this point, because the utility poles have to come down before the new signal comes in. There's a conflict there. So the signal issue you mentioned, that is actually, it's not working properly right now. So we do have East Coast signals. It's gonna have to repair the signal, the existing signal for the time being until ST Ireland gets in.
Okay.
Once we get a little closer to those final paving dates and when the signal work is happening, I can definitely share that, because I think this intersection is probably one of the more, like, I know you all get a ton of emails, I get a ton of emails about it. It's a pretty, I mean, it's existing conditions, it's a pretty poor intersection. And so, obviously, during temporary condition, we don't want to make it even worse, and try to hopefully improve it a little bit so it's a little clearer. So, yeah, I'll share, once we get some more details, I can share sort of what the final plans are going to look like,
Okay.
timing-wise for that.
And maybe one additional thing is the flags that were placed on either side, maybe those can be replaced because they're looking a little weathered after this past winter.
Yeah, agreed.
To whatever extent that it helps, maybe it's worth a low budget way of trying to make an improvement, but really great updates, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anything from the public? All right, seeing nothing, John, thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, and on to our last item of the night, discussion approval, overview of the temporary public art policy. Ray.
Before Ray starts talking, I have to say this is a product of, this is another line in the chronicles of trying to do too many things without resourcing them properly. So Ray's put in a lot of time to get this to this point. Of course, others have as well, because there's a committee involved. And it was in service of trying to have a policy in place so that we could have banners on the poles in time for the parade. But realizing today that that is basically not possible at this point. So we're not, which is just as well, because otherwise I would have basically been asking you to violate our policy for adopting written directives. So instead, today will be an introduction, and then next time we'll have you ask that you approve it. So today is just an overview.
Right. So want to say first off, thanks to Councilor Oakleaf, who's been very involved in this process over the last month, 6 weeks, probably a little longer than that. But it's been great to have the council interface as we've been developing this. As the cover sheet states, we don't currently have any policy or guidance for staff in place to help us make decisions around public art, what it is, where it goes, how we're seeking it out, how we're making decisions about what to approve and not. So a group of us, some reps from city council, city staff, I&B Commission, and Safe Healthy Connected gathered a few weeks back. And at the time, we're looking at what we were hoping was going to be our long-term public art policy, and I think pretty quickly realized we needed more time, but also have several projects in the queue now that are waiting for a response. So I think some really good suggestions from committee members was to let's get a temporary short-term policy in place that'll allow us to sort of process some of these pieces that are in front of us now, and then work as a group to flesh out a longer-term policy that will really help, I think, in particular, guide investment in public art and how the city does that. So what's in front of you tonight is a short-term policy that would be designed to be applied to any public art projects that would be completely installed by October 17th. That date, just for folks to know, was kind of selected based on the seasonality of installing public art outside. That's about the, and frankly, pumpkins. I asked for a week of reprieve in between this and the beginning of Halloween craziness. So that's the timing there. And then any projects that are looking to go beyond that point in time would be considered under what will hopefully be the long-term policy that we adopt in the coming months. As you see, policy includes hopefully a pretty clear rubric for how we're making decisions. We want to make that really transparent with artists and have folks applying really understand what we're looking for and not have it be a sort of behind closed doors process. And the application that we put together was very much, we built the rubric first and then the application second. So that really the application is asking very explicitly for artists to respond to items in the rubric. I think one point of which I sort of mentioned, but want to just say explicitly, I think one recommendation from the committee and certainly from staff is in this interim period with a short-term policy that we not invest public funds in public art. I think we're just not at a point yet where we feel like we are, I think, equipped with a policy that allows us to do that in a thoughtful way. And as we all know, there's not a lot of resources currently dedicated to public art. We have a small public art fund, but I don't think we're ready at this point to be investing that small amount of money based on the policy that's in front of you tonight. So with that preamble, I'm happy to walk through this in detail or simply ask questions. I think hopefully it's fairly straightforward, but maybe ask if folks have questions and then we can kind of go through piece by piece.
And if I may, I want to give a little bit more context. So there's, as the memo states in the information that Ray provided in the agenda item, representatives from across some of the commissions have been meeting for at least 2 months now, but also a community group of artists that I've been working with has been meeting monthly since January. They also had a chance to review this draft and offered some suggested feedback, which was incorporated into the most recent conversation that we had with the group last Tuesday. And so this is kind of where folks are feeling comfortable with. Again, knowing that getting to this point, it hasn't been a thoroughly public process with like a warned commission item. But again, just knowing that there are some projects in the queue, a shorter term array of guidelines and application parameters to help alleviate some of the desire to move projects forward this season. Knowing like that there's a whole wealth of conversation and directions that we can and should go to make sure that this is really well vetted, well thought out, and that the community is really excited about the projects too, to making sure that there's engagement. So there's some things that you probably don't see in the short term that are intentionally left out, knowing that the conversation moving forward would be much more robust, would be, included in more publicly warned commission or subcommission conversations that I hopefully get to participate in. So that's my preamble.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, well, thank you, Bryn. Ray, this looks great. I would have been happy to approve it tonight, but to do that later. I think I recall talking about public art policy when I was originally on the commission as a commissioner, so congrats for being able to get something our way.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions. I think it's great.
I have a question. One, it's really helpful to learn that local artists were involved in the making of this. I recently met an amazing local artist named Misty, and I just shared this with her, and she's been craving local art in Winooski, and I mentioned this to her and just shared it with her while we were here. So I'm just happy to know, right, because it's the people most impacted should be closest to the power. And not to say that there aren't folks on city council who are artists or, on Save All the Connected People, but I do not identify as an artist by any means. My question is, in the artwork selection process and criteria section,
Yes.
bullet point 2 says proposal/artwork deemed to be defamatory, harmful, or offensive will not be allowable for approval. And my question is, according to whom?
That is a great question, and I think candidly is intentionally somewhat vague. I think that would be a determination made by this group that's mentioned here of representatives. So again, city council, city staff, and the 2 commissions. It certainly is not something that would be made by an individual. I think there are obviously some pieces that are fairly straightforward and obvious, right? I think anything racist, sexist, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that there are opportunities to push that envelope in art, and I think that that's something that, again, with more artists involved in the long-term development of the plan, I think I would love, I also am not an artist or don't identify as an artist, so I would love any sort of feedback or guiding language around how to clarify that. I think that was one piece that we really worked through in our meeting most recently, is trying to make some of these parameters as clear as we can, because some of them are really subjective, frankly, and that's okay. But we don't, again, want to leave too much up for interpretation by folks applying, because we want to make it clear what we're looking for. So, yeah, it's a great question. I don't have a great answer for you, but I think to say it'll be a group decision, and that will happen through 2 phases. So, right, there'll be this group that kind of looks it over, scores it, and then brings something forward to city council to then also make a determination. So, it'd be quite a few community members and representatives engaged.
I appreciate that answer, and I appreciate the transparency, and I also appreciate that in this section as well, it lays out that like there will be a warned public meeting, and then also like the literal last few words of this or decisions of city council are final.
Yep.
And so it feels like it's a community effort, and obviously there would be an opportunity for public comment and things like that. But I think this is great. I'm super excited that this is happening, and any way that we can help or support, let me know.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 questions just for the order of events for this. The temporary art committee, the representatives that are on there, how would they be selected?
It's a good question. It's not a chartered group of council. So I think in terms of the commission members, it would be a matter of those commissions, I think, determining who those reps are at this point. We hadn't discussed, and it's certainly something that you all could propose. We hadn't discussed having it be a chartered group of council, because I think that comes along with some different requirements around public warning of meetings and things of that nature. Again, I think to Bryn's point, we do want to make these meetings public and available, but yeah, so I think that was my thought, is that the commissions would appoint 2 members to this subgroup, and almost have it be a subcommittee of those, joint subcommittee of those 2 commissions.
And then we as a council would also select one person? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
I think
Okay.
that, yes, would be my thought.
Okay.
Again, that's your prerogative, but.
We'll figure that out.
And then it sounds like after the committee refers it to the council and it gets voted at council, so it'll be public for the council. So it'll be public facing when it comes to the council meeting, and they'll be able to view it, the public will be able to view it and give feedback. Okay.
Yep.
Good.
And I think too, and Brennan and I have talked a little bit about this, I think that moving forward, the meetings of this group, I would like to warn publicly, maybe not in an official, like, Secretary of State style, but like put a meeting on Front Porch Forum, let folks know that we're getting together. This, again, we're not trying to do this behind a closed door. So I do really want to make sure that the community feels like they can be engaged throughout the process.
I love that.
And one thing that I want to emphasize is like the rubric is designed as kind of a point of like, is this project have enough substance to it to be able to move it forward for additional discussion?
Correct.
It's not, the rubric is scored in such a way that it should be considered an approval in any way. I would want to make sure that any policy does not have administrative approval, in my opinion. I think there should be a thoroughly vetted public process, and the longer term policy adoption could discuss some like staging or gradation of public involvement, depending on how large of scale the project is or how much of a public investment of funds there might be. But I think those are things we want to make sure the community is aware of it, has opportunity to provide feedback, and feels excited about it. I think, to me, are some of the core elements. And ideally, avoiding lessons learned that we've seen in other communities in Vermont as well as across the nation.
Anything from the public online? Paul, can you bring Terry over?
Hello again. Can you guys hear me?
We
Yep, hi
can.
Terry.
Great. I'm very excited to see this coming around so quickly. Just curious though about the commission or the group that's going to be reviewing the art. Has there been any consideration about having an artist on that group?
I think certainly longer term, yes, that was discussed. I think, you know, candidly, in the interest of moving this forward somewhat quickly, I think we went with groups that we had represented at the table. There is an artist amongst that group, I will say, currently, but I think it's something that we'd be open to considering, certainly. And again, long term, that's the goal. I think this is just a short term sort of to get us through, frankly.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, nobody else in the public, so Terry's good, and that's that. Awesome, well,
And I mean, if it's okay with me saying Terry was one of the artists that I worked with outside of this informal commission group, with a handful of other Winooski-based artists that are very well accomplished in their own right and have a lot of experience with public art. So it's been extremely exciting to see that group to come together in their own free time to look at this and to help move the conversation forward.
wonderful, thank you for your work on this, Deputy Mayor, Ray, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, as we're just talking about it today and not voting, Ray, I think you're good.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
All right, the time is 7:41. I will seek a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.